Although it's a conversation, what we decided was that I'll speak and then Ravi will speak about the book. We have been given 18 minutes, so we have divided it as 9 plus 9. Let me come straight to the book. The title you might find somewhat intriguing. Leapfrogging to pole vaulting. So I must first tell you about the genesis of how that title came about. Reliance has this Reliance Innovation Council, which I've been chairing for almost 12 years now. And in Reliance, as you know, growth is life is their motto, but we brought in this innovation as a way of life, and therefore innovation-led growth, and of course innovation-led exponential growth. And once Mukesh and I were talking, and Mukesh in some context said, Doc, we must leapfrog. So I said, I don't believe in leapfrogging, because I've studied the science of leapfrogging. And the frog leaps because he's afraid of the predators, he's afraid of the enemies. And he jumps to safety, and the average distance is about 4.6 feet. So we don't want, because we are afraid of the competitors, jump to safety and then again to safety a few feet. We should pole vault. The size of the pole determines the size of your aspiration. And in this new metaphor, what you are talking about is that when you hit a wall, you don't go with a hammer and keep on sort of hammering it for years. You just go over it. That is a game-changing, disruptive innovation that you create. And he loved it, and we created a program called Beyonders. Beyonders means those leaders who can think beyond, make impossible possible as their sort of business, around 25-30 people out of 250,000. That is where the entire process began. And then I was fortunate to, having been invited by Ravi to join KPIT Technologies, and it's been a fantastic decade that we sort of worked together. I was inspired by his dynamism thinking, and we brought some of the idea that we individually had together, and that was the birth of the book. That's number one. Number two is that this particular metaphor, you can see the frog jumps instantly, but when you're pole vaulting, you accelerate and you generate kinetic energy, all right? And that kinetic energy takes you over. So in that metaphor, therefore, there is a lot of preparation that is required. But at the same time, when you are accelerating, if there are speed breakers, then you stop all over again. So what are the speed breakers? So the book describes what could be those speed breakers. They could be internal, like cynicism, complacency, inability to take risks, being afraid of failing, and so on. And they could be external, like government suddenly brings in a regulation without your sort of knowing it, and that becomes a speed breaker, and you sort of go back. So it describes that. Most importantly, there is a chapter on leadership. So what kind of leadership you really require? Because then it's all exponential. Then you are not thinking in terms of 10%. You think of 10x, so as to say. Then you are not thinking about the best practice, because if you say best practice, you are following somebody's practice. You create the next practice. So we are looking at kind of a mindset which is very, very different altogether. And how do you create that? How do you create an atmosphere? How do you create a challenge, a grand challenge, like X Prize, for example, where you go beyond the realms of possibilities? The book actually describes that. What I would like to say, and I would like to speak for less than 9 minutes so that you will have more time, is that we launched the book, 15 January it came into the market, and within 45 days the first edition was sold out. It went for a reprint. So to us, however, thank you. To us, however, it is not the number of copies sold, the number of ideas sold, basically, that matters. And I'm very happy to say that a number of ideas in the book have been sold. I will just focus on one of them, because somebody asked, yeah, you pole vault, but how do you make sure that you don't break your bones? So there is a chapter 3 which says, how do you make sure that there is an assured success in terms of innovation, and there is an assured framework. Affordable, scalable, sustainable, user-friendly, rapid, excellence in terms of technology, and distinctive. And they're all kind of quantified. And the book shows, as a matter of fact, that when you don't follow the assured framework, you have challenges. You exist today and you don't exist tomorrow. And there is a lot to learn from that. And we are very happy that actually this is being used already in different sectors. Like, for example, startups are using it. Because startups would be always enamored by the technology. But in the assured world, there's so much else where society comes in, markets come in, environment comes in, regulations come in, and so on and so forth. Being distinctive becomes important, otherwise you'll be out of business and so on. And in fact, I was very pleased to see that they have printed T-shirts where it says, "Are you sure you're assured?" in one of the incubators. Because assured is a very dynamic framework. The fact that you are assured today does not mean that you will be assured of success tomorrow. That you can see how many Fortune 500 companies have just disappeared. It is being used in ministries, for example. It is being used by national labs to select projects as well as monitor projects. And we are both, Ravi and I, are extremely happy. Now, there's a bigger purpose of the book. It's not about being smart and about being clever and showing your strength. It is leapfrogging to pole vaulting, creating the magic of radical yet sustainable transformation. All right? So that is doing a good part of it. And as somebody, one of the persons who commented on that said, that a maze of problems has been converted into a 3-4-7 formula by us. So I explained the 7 part of it, the assured part of it. 3 and 4 are most important, which lay the foundation, and more importantly, the purpose, basically, for creating a better world. So Ravi, the more difficult part, may I leave it to Ravi now.